Good evening, and I am the co-coordinator of the Center County chapter of ACAP. We are thrilled that you're with us today. ACAP, if you're not aware, is a collaboration of local chapters across a growing geographic footprint. It was begun in North Carolina and now has local chapters in North Carolina and Pennsylvania and is growing nationally. ACAP offers educational programs each month, and although they are specifically designed for adult children of aging parents, the programs are open really to anyone. Typically, we have our programs in person, but during COVID, we've had to switch things up a bit, and we are now virtual. Um, all of our chapters are doing their presentations virtually, which gives you an opportunity actually to log in to different presentations, not just Center County. We definitely look forward to being able to be together again, and when it's definitely safe. Hopefully that will be in July. If you miss a talk or want to see it again, maybe share it with a friend, go to that chapter's website or the ACAP website, which is acapcommunity.org, and find the events information. You can click on the events and it will pull up all the upcoming presentations that are available to you. They are free, and we so appreciate the support we get to be able to offer these programs to you for free. If you would like more information about ACAP, simply go to acapcommunity.org. If there's a chapter in your area, you can click on that, and the drop-down list will connect you to that particular chapter's website. Once on the website, click on Contact Us. And if you give us your contact information, we would be more than happy to send out an invite to you each month about the upcoming programs. If there's not a chapter in your area, feel free to look around and learn a little bit more about ACAP. And as I said, if you want to get a reminder each month, the best way to not miss a program is to sign up with your name and email so that we can contact you each month. ACAP chapters are providing right now a network of support, but we do want you to realize that we do appreciate and want to protect your privacy. So any information you're giving to us is kept here with ACAP. We don't share your emails with anyone else. Even though information is global, caring is local, and there are different sponsorships that we depend upon for our operation. Our core sponsors are Foxdale Village, Encompass, Penn State Health, Grain Hospice, Home Instead, and Juniper. Our monthly sponsor is Steinbacher, Goodall, and Yurchak. And with that, I think I will introduce you to our two speakers this evening. First would be Jenna Franks, who's a lawyer and brand new partner in Steinbacher, Goodall, and Yurchak, and Kristen Doherty, who is the long-term care planner, and she's a certified Medicaid planner. So with that, let me turn this over to you two.
Thanks, Jill. There we go. Welcome, everyone. Kristen and I are very excited to be here with you today. We're going to be discussing the processes to get services, basically managing paperwork and eligibility for services. As Jill mentioned, I'm one of the attorneys at Steinbacher, Goodall, and Yurchak. At our law firm, we help clients with their transitions in the second half of life. Usually that's retirement, maybe needing care at some point, and then passing away. Many times we're assisting clients with Medicaid applications, but we do get quite a few calls from clients who are just looking for available resources, or they just need pointed in the right direction to get the services that they need. So we're going to share many of the resources that are available in your area. Please do keep in mind that we service the state of Pennsylvania, so the resources in your state might be titled slightly differently. However, it's very likely that the same resources are available in some way in your state as well. So I work primarily out of our state college location. Here pictured is my husband Josh, our daughter Ava, and our son Grayson. Now, to give you a little bit more background on me, I actually wanted to be an attorney since the 8th grade. I always saw an argument for either side of a situation, so basically I drove my parents crazy because I always played the devil's advocate. At the end of the day, though, I wanted to make a difference, and what better way than through the legal system? So we actually lived in Florida for about 10 years, where I went to law school, and I practiced in several different areas of law, but nothing spoke to me. Then we got a phone call that both of our grandparents had been hospitalized and they weren't doing well. We decided it was time to move home and help out. So pictured next are Graham and Pap, two of the cutest and sweetest older people that I know. They were married for over 60 years. This is actually one of the last happy pictures that we have of them. Graham ended up with a form of dementia, and Pap suffered a stroke that made him very weak. Our Graham and Pap needed long-term care, but just like most people, they wanted to stay at home as long as possible. By going through this process for my own loved ones, including even living with our grandparents for a year, this helped me realize how important planning ahead is so that you have more options. And I know, Kristen, you've seen many of these same situations.
Yep. Thanks, Jenna. So welcome, everybody. My name's Kristen. I am a long-term care planner with Steinbacher Ganonier-Check. I am also a certified Medicaid planner, one of the handful in Pennsylvania. Also a certified dementia practitioner, and additionally an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care trainer, which allows me to train other professionals in the community how to deal appropriately with those who have dementia, a person with dementia. So I've been with I apologize, Jenna and I gave a disclaimer ahead of time. It's evening, so we have our families at home with us. My family's not here, but my dog is loud. So I apologize. So I've been with the law firm now for over 11 years. Prior to that, I actually worked for the Area Agency on Aging for 5 years. I have a program which helped administer in-home care. So I actually am going to share some of those experiences today as we talk through, because that's one of the programs that definitely is one of the most difficult to actually receive care and qualify for, even for those who really are already qualified for that program. So this is my family, my dog, as you hear her, so you get to see her now, dog Chestnut, our cat Sprinkles. We actually have horses also. We have 5 horses. Right now, I don't have pictures of them, but my kids finally talked me into buying chicks. We have a dozen chicks that we bought a few weeks ago, and they actually are doing well. They're thriving and getting much bigger. So also here is my husband Kyle and my son Kyler and my daughter Kendall. But how did I end up here? I always like to share really how I ended up what I'm doing and how I really got to where I am today. So I always knew growing up that I really wanted to work with people, but I wasn't really sure how I wanted to do that. In college, I did go into sociology and psychology, kind of started to go into the drug and alcohol field, but I knew really quickly that really wasn't what I wanted to do. So excuse me. I apologize. So, it was the neighbor wanted to play with the kids. Oh. So where I ended up actually landing the job with the Office of Aging, where I worked for 5 years. And I really, really loved doing that. I loved working with the families, going into homes and really advocating and figuring out what options we had and how to get care in home so people could stay home a lot longer. However, I ended up transitioning over to the law firm, which 11 years ago, which has been great because working at the Office of Aging sometimes was hard because it was a nonprofit. It was, we were really limited on what we could do to help families. And while, we went above and beyond every day, I also wanted to really take that extra step to do what we needed to do to help families. At the law firm, I work alongside the attorneys, mostly Jenna, to explore available options for care with the families that we work with, helping them apply for benefits to pay for in-home care and facility type care, connect seniors with community resources, and at the end of the day, really advocating for those who are in need of services or care. Now, tonight, we're going to go over a few things. First, we're going to talk about how to navigate complicated systems and paperwork, qualifications for programs, and we're going to share some tips and tricks to how to qualify for those benefits and services. As Jenna mentioned at the beginning, really what we spend a lot of our time doing is working with families to figure out how to get them qualified for certain types of benefits. These might be families that need to do some work before they qualify for certain services or benefits. These could be families that actually already qualify, whatever that looks like. However, the process has become so difficult to navigate that they really just don't know where to turn and they really just need help. So we spend a lot of time really connecting with different resources in our community. And really, so when somebody comes in to see us, somebody turns to us for help, if we can't help them, we can at least point them in the right direction. Now, one of the places that I think is really important to start our conversation off today is with the Area Agency on Aging. So this is such a foundational organization. They really can help connect you with any type of resources you may need as you enter your second half of life. So they provide a variety of services, and I kind of just listed out a few of them that I thought we could touch on today, just to give you a little bit of an idea of what they can provide. So first on here, I have level of care assessments. So I think the level of care assessments are something that's really important. So what the level of care assessment does is it really determines the appropriate level of care for somebody if they need care in home or care in a facility. So for instance, this level of care assessment can determine if somebody needs skilled nursing home care or if they can receive a lower level of care like assisted living or a personal care home. Also helps determine what type of in-home care might be appropriate if that's something that they would need. Now, case management is also a great service that's provided by the Area Agency on Aging. So case management really is just having a caseworker there. They might not be really doing a whole lot because maybe you don't need a whole lot. They might be providing a lot of support for you. I always look at case management through the Area Agency on Aging as something that is good to at least be connected or enrolled in as we enter our second half of life. If we're starting to need any type of care or we're declining at all, because at that point in time, at least your loved one's really on their radar, if more than anything. They're able to check in, have that open line of communication, a way to communicate. Because as we know, a lot of times as family members, that's a really hard place to be. Okay. So if we can ask somebody else to kind of intervene just to make sure everything's going okay, I think that's a really helpful service. Now, Meals on Wheels is probably one of the biggest services that we hear of coming from the Agency on Aging. I actually think this is a great option as well. So, you get mixed signals all the time if the meals are actually good or not. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is not just providing a nutritious meal for somebody who's homebound, that can't get out to go grocery shopping, isn't able to cook their own meals, but we're checking in with our loved ones. So there's somebody knocking on their door, maybe once a week, maybe 5 days a week, whatever that looks like, and they're actually checking in. So we're having face-to-face contact. So even if it might just be handing the bag over, we're at least seeing your loved one and knowing that they are, they're still walking, they're still able to open open the door. We're able to maybe see if there's some sort of decline, or if they don't answer the door, we didn't think they were. So now we know we have to pick up the phone, call the family member and say, hey, is everything okay? Mom didn't answer the phone or answer the door today to receive her meals. So again, while I think the meals itself are a great option, I also like to look at this as an opportunity for a check-in. Let's face it, we're living in a world where more and more family members are living out of state, out of the area than mom and dad. So we might not be able to do that check-in. We have busy schedules. We might not even be able to call every day or every other day. So this is another option to be able to help check in. Now, for homemaker assistance and caregiver assistance, these kind of work hand in hand, but this is another great option for somebody who might need a little bit of home support, maybe just like a light housekeeping once a week to help them maintain, or if they maybe need some caregivers to come into their home to help provide some type of care. Typically with the Area Agency on Aging, these aren't really intensive, but they do provide some support to help maintain. Because really at the end of the day, what we have to remember with the Area Agency on Aging is their role is to help really fill the gap, to be able to help your loved ones stay home as long as possible. Now, one opportunity or one option throughout the Area Agency on Aging, most people don't realize, is the ombudsman. This is actually a really great resource that everybody should know. So the ombudsman's role really is to be like the liaison between a resident in some type of facility and the facility itself. So if there is maybe a complaint, so somebody's living in a personal care home and something's happening, they don't feel like they're getting anywhere with the administration at their home, they can speak with the ombudsman. And that person really acts as they're really intervening to see, okay, what's really going on here? Is the person who's reaching out to me being a little bit unrealistic and we need to kind of talk them down off of that? Or something really happening at the facility and we need to kind of mediate this and figure out what we can do. Because, it's sometimes a hard place to be a facility. You're a business as a facility, but the resident there lives there. That's their home. So sometimes the ombudsman really can help mediate these situations to make this a better situation for everybody. Area Agency on Aging also has Older Adult Protective Services. So this is the unit that investigates any type of abuse claims. So neglect, financial exploitation, sexual, whatever that may be. If they get the phone call, and they have to investigate that. Now, that can look a lot of different ways internally, but at the end of the day, they're the ones that really start that investigation and work through and figure out where it goes from there. I think it's a really good resource for everybody to have too, because at the end of the day, as we know, our older adults really are at high risk for for different types of exploitation or abuse. So if we see that, it's really good to know who to call. Jenna and I actually get a lot of phone calls about potential abuse situations or financial exploitation. We probably get more of the financial exploitation calls. And what we do is we really just loop in the Older Adult Protective Services at that point in time, because they're the ones that have the tools and the methods to be able to really look into it, to figure out what's happening there, to make sure the older adult is being taken care of appropriately. Senior centers are another great resource that the Area Agency on Aging provides. So they can provide a safe place for people to go during the day. They're still safe at home. And this usually is really set up for individuals who are fairly active still, or fairly able to get out of their home. There's bingo, there could be exercise classes, you can have your lunch there, they play cards. I always think about when I worked at the Area Agency on Aging, we had a senior center right outside of our offices, and it was like high school all over again. How they saved their seats for their friends, they would play with each other. If somebody won bingo, I was like, oh man, so at some point in time I revert again, but it was a good it was really nice to see people coming out of their homes when they could stay home, but really they're coming out for the socialization aspect and to continue to be healthy, to have their meals, maybe do exercise, stimulate their minds. Now, the Apprise program's another really great program that many people don't realize the Area Agency on Aging can provide. So this is a program where where they can help out with prescription drugs, health insurance plans. So they actually have the technology at the Area Agency on Aging. What they do is they work with volunteers. It's a volunteer-based program most places. And if you need to switch health insurance plans or you need to find a health insurance plan, what you can work with them, and it's a free service for seniors, and they can help you. They can plug in all your information, your medications, your health conditions, all of that, and then they can say, oh, look, there's a better option for health insurance here or for a Medicare plan that would really be more beneficial for you. It's going to provide more, it's more cost effective, whatever that looks like. But that's a great option. That's another one. Jenna and I get a lot of phone calls about switching health insurance plans. And that's a tricky one. We deal with Medicaid all day long, and I could talk to you about it all day, all night. But, when it comes to the supplemental health plans, that gets a lot more tricky. So we generally would refer a family member that we're working with to go and talk with the Apprise program at the Area Agency on Aging.
I just wanted to mention there, Kristen, that there are independent brokers for like supplemental health care insurance companies. I actually recommend that you look into like the Apprise program or the equivalent in your area, just because they are more of a neutral party. They're not necessarily trying to sell you something, but they're just trying to give you your options and figure out what health insurance would be best for you.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Thanks, Jenna. Yeah, so we're going to touch base on another program that the Area Agency on Aging is involved with here in a little bit. But I just wanted to really start our conversation tonight because I kind of felt we'd probably spend the most of our time on this section also, because I can't stress enough how important the Area Agency on Aging is because of the services that they provide. Really the goal with the Area Agency on Aging is to really address the needs of our aging population. So we can help them remain as independent as possible, but safely in their own homes. One thing I will mention before we switch gears and talk about the next topic is our Area Agency on Aging has a really neat resource that they hand out to everybody. We have a ton of them in our office. We hand out to everybody in our county, and they call it the Green Book. So it's probably not called that anyplace else, but I'm sure many Area Agency on Agings have them as well. And really what that is, it's just a book that's put together with all the resources, all the in-home care agencies in our area, all the assisted living facilities, personal care homes, nursing homes, the senior centers, anything that you would need if you are in your second half of life and you're starting to think you need to look into some type of service in this book. And within it, it actually just dives in even more because then it breaks it down to what's Medicaid, covered by Medicaid, what's covered by Medicare, what's just private pay. So it's really kind of almost a one-stop shop for families to be able to have this and look at it to help begin their journey, figure out what resources there really are available. Okay, so I'm going to switch gear now and talk a little bit about Medicaid. So Medicaid is a tricky program. So Medicaid is a federal and a state funded program. So what happens is the dollars, all the Medicaid dollars are federally allocated, and then they go down to the states. And then the states themselves get to figure out how they want to use that money. Now, it has to be within reason, and they have to have guidelines. So here in Pennsylvania, and I'm sure every state's the same, we have a state Medicaid manual, so a Pennsylvania Medicaid manual, but then we also have the federal guidelines. And in our state Medicaid manual, it actually has to reference the state guide or the federal guidelines right within it. That's actually really helpful for us, because one thing that many people don't realize is even though you live in a specific state and the state's saying these are the rules, you can actually refer to the federal guidelines too for clarification. Not saying that the federal trump it, but it's a good argument within your state. There's a lot of times in our office that we're dealing with really complicated Medicaid situations, and we aren't agreeing with what Pennsylvania is saying, but we do agree with what the federal guidelines are saying. So we have to go back to Pennsylvania, and we have to go through the Medicaid office, county assistance office, and we have to argue, and we have to say, we don't agree with this, but we agree with the federal guidelines, and here's how and why. So that's something I think that's really important as we go through the conversation today, because even though there's guidelines and there's rule books and all of that, it might not always be as clear cut as what we think it is. So a couple things that Medicaid covers, and Medicaid, it covers a lot of things. Now, again, we could be here. I'd keep you guys hostage all week talking about all the different programs through Medicaid and what it all covers. But some of the big bullet items would be really the health insurance. So this could be for people that are over 60. It could be for people under 60 that are on the medical assistance program for health insurance or their prescription drugs. It covers behavioral health programs. It also can cover under age 60 programs. So just to touch base on this for a moment, because this is really important too. This would be relevant for families that have somebody under the age of 60 that has a certain type of disability or health issue that maybe needs some type of health insurance, but also some additional supports, like maybe some care in home to help them, or if they're in a facility to help them as well. Oftentimes, we focus on the long-term care, so Medicaid paying for long-term care, whether it's in home or in a nursing home. But it's also important to remember that they do have just as many programs, if not actually more, for those under 60 who may have a disability. Now, I'm sure many of you know that with Medicaid, there's very strict income and asset guidelines for all of the programs. Again, I have to mention that all of the programs work differently. So what the income and asset guidelines are for the nursing home Medicaid is actually different than what it is for the health insurance portion of Medicaid. So every program's different. So that definitely keeps us on our toes as we're working with families, trying to figure out the best way to make sure somebody can qualify or maintain their benefits. But it's really important to know that even though there's very strict income and asset guidelines for the Medicaid programs, there's still options to qualify for the programs, even if your income or assets are over your state's thresholds. Now, it's not typically easy, and there's typically a lot of work that has to be done there. That's why it's really important that everything we're going to talk about today, the biggest thing to keep in mind as we're helping our loved ones is really that it's important to work with an elder law firm that focuses on Medicaid planning. Jenna's going to talk a little bit more about elder law firms, what we do, what makes us different a little bit later this evening. But I just thought this was a really good time to point this out, because if we see a lot of people do kind of shoddy jobs because they worked with an attorney that doesn't specialize in this, or they got some really bad advice from the internet or their friends. So we take pride in what we do, and we think it's really important to be able to do a complete and a whole job to help you through every stage of your second half of life. So working with an elder law firm that focuses in Medicaid planning is really something that's essential for our loved ones. Now, I mentioned that all the programs are a little bit different for qualifications with Medicaid. What I thought I'd do is actually give a couple examples. Please remember, this is how this would work in Pennsylvania, but I always think it's good to kind of have a visual of how this could actually work. You know, I'm saying income and asset guidelines, but there's ways around that. Like, what does that actually mean? So one of the examples I thought we could talk about was dealing with the health insurance portion of medical assistance or Medicaid. So although there are strict guidelines, of course, for incomes and assets, one thing that they don't do in Pennsylvania for health insurance is they don't have gifting rules. So what that means is we work with a lot of individuals who come to us. They've been on medical assistance for a long time. I'm talking about people who might even be in their 30s because they have lupus or some other type of neurological disorder that cost a lot in prescriptions. So they have Medicaid health insurance to help pay for that. But now mom or dad passed away, or grandparent or aunt and uncle, and they've received an inheritance. So they come to us because they say, well, I don't know what to do now because I'm receiving this money and yay, that's great. But at the end of the day, I can't afford to lose my health insurance because my prescriptions alone are $5,000 a month. Plus, if I get hospitalized, it's $30,000, whatever that looks like. So something we can do in that situation is actually just take that inheritance and we can tuck it aside for them. We use trust here in Pennsylvania. It looks different every state to state. But what we're doing is maintaining their benefits. We're maintaining that person's benefits because at the end of the day, that medical assistance, Medicaid, really covers a lot for that person. Another example would be dealing with more the long-term care. So we're talking about somebody who maybe didn't put a plan in place and now they need care because we never know when the crisis is going to happen, right? So crisis happened and now mom needs nursing home care, or your husband needs nursing home care. We didn't put a plan together, so we just have to pay every penny to the nursing home and we're impoverished. Actually, no. And this is going to be the same in every state. The answer is no. There's options. Now, I'm not going to dive into those options though, because those options definitely look very different from state to state. So again, that's why it's important to work with an elder law firm. But it's important to know that putting a plan in place ahead of time is the best way to protect yourself and preserve your goals. But even if you didn't put a plan in place before the crisis, there's still options at that time. Now, before I move on to talk about in-home care, I wanted to just mention a couple forms that are required when we're dealing with Medicaid, because I know one of the things that we kind of went into today thinking that we were going to talk about was managing all the forms and what do those look like. So just to give you a little bit of idea, when we file a Medicaid application, we have to file the PA 600, which is the actual application. Then we have to file the 1768. Then we also have to file the 1886. And then after that, the 1572. And then we have to get the MA 51 and the MA 103 completed by the nursing home. Then we have to get the physician certification from the doctor. That's just a few of the forms. And I'm not going to go through those because, again, those forms are all Pennsylvania specific. But I guarantee in your state, there's just as many forms, if not more. So it can be overwhelming and really complicated to go through this process because another thing with Medicaid is it's very timely. Everything has to be done very exact. And if it's not, the whole application gets rejected and you're back to square one. So just having to deal with all those different forms and I mean, who knows what these forms are? If you don't do this every single day, it's hard to even be able to figure out where these forms are. How do you get them? How do you get through this process? So I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about in-home care. Some of this is Medicaid, but first to mention, when we're dealing with in-home care, for the most part, it's going to be private pay or Medicaid funded. So, of course, private pay, you can choose your own caregiver, you can choose your own agency, or you can choose your own person that you want to pay to take care of you. It really ranges how much that can cost. We're seeing in our areas that agencies are about $25 an hour and not getting any less costly. So we also here have a waiver program. I'm sure everybody has this program. It might just be called something different. It's a Medicaid funded program. So we're talking about the same scenarios that I just mentioned. We have strict income and asset guidelines. We have to qualify for the care. And actually, even the qualification works quite a bit different for in-home care versus in a facility care. But additionally, in all those forms I just mentioned to you, we also have to qualifying for the in-home care program through Medicaid. we have to get a whole bunch of different agencies involved at that point in time. So we still have to get the level of care assessment from the Area Agency on Aging. Then we have to get a physician certification from the doctor. Then we have to deal with the Department of Human Services because they're dealing with all the asset if there is gifting and dealing with that Medicaid application. But then we have to loop in the Office of Long-Term Living. After that, the independent enrollment broker, who actually is the agency who really oversees and manages all of this in Pennsylvania. And then after everything gets approved, you're assigned a managed care organization that oversees you and helps you manage everything. And then at the end of the day, after that, you also have a home health care organization. So all these forms I already mentioned, plus all these agencies, what we're seeing is people are just giving up. People are going to nursing homes because this is way too complicated. And honestly, the state's designed it this way. I don't know why, because let's be realistic, it's less costly for the state to keep people home versus pay for them to be in a nursing home. But at the end of the day, there's all these different loopholes that families have to work through to keep their loved one home if they can't afford to pay out of pocket. We're seeing a lot of families hire us even though they are already qualified. They financially qualify for the program. They hire us because they don't want to have to deal with all of this stuff because it's complicated. It can take 6 to 12 months on your own to do all this, to get through the process. And if you miss one paper, it's denied and you're back to square one. So it's important to know, and kind of where I'm taking this is, it's really good to know what your resources are in the community, but also how to navigate these, because at the end of the day, a lot of these programs are there, but they're so hard to qualify for that you really need to have the right team on your side, the right professionals to help you figure this out. Now, the LIFE program, and this is going to be called something different in state to state, but this is the Living Independence for the Elderly. This is a great program that we have here. I definitely would recommend everybody to see what your area has to offer for this. So this is a program for those that are still living home, but need care throughout the day. So they can actually go to the LIFE program during the day. The bus will pick them up. They can go there. There's a nursing staff on site. And they have a lot of socialization, stimulation. You get your meals, you might get some exercise. So this program is really designed for those that are aged 55 and older and meet the level of care to be skilled nursing facility eligible. So they really need a high level of care. This isn't for individuals who are independent. And really, I always talk to families about how when we're looking at being able to keep our loved one home, but maybe husband needs a break during the day, or living with daughter and daughter needs to go to work and mom can't stay home alone. And, we don't want caregivers in the home for some reason. This is a great step before we look at placement. Because at the end of the day, if this doesn't work out, it's likely because we really do need to look at placement. And I think it's important for families to know all the options and really to know where they can look to make sure they've done everything they need to do. Because placing a loved one is not an easy decision, and there's a lot of guilt for caregivers. So I always think if we can provide every resource possible and go down every avenue, then we can at least rest assured, or the caregiver family member can at least rest assured knowing that they've done everything that they possibly can. And I should just mention the LIFE program is funded private pay or through a Medicaid. Okay, so the next couple organizations I'm going to talk about, I might make your head spin because you're going to say, didn't the last organization do that? And yeah, these ones all really overlap, and it's a really fine line. These organizations, again, are going to look a little bit different state to state. They might be titled a little bit differently, but you're going to have some type of entity like this that really provides services. So for first, the Department of Human Services. So the Department of Human Services oversees the Medicaid programs. So this is, they're going to work with families or oversee programs for those that are dually eligible, so Medicare and Medicaid. So nursing homes, waiver program, housing, those children who receive Medicaid benefits, and those that receive food stamps, just to name a few. Now, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services is another really great resource. Now, this is a federal agency, so everybody should know about this. So this is the agency that oversees nursing homes to make sure they're meeting the federal guidelines. So Department of Human Services, I'd mentioned, Department of Health, I'm going to mention, they're going to be more state specific. Again, you're going to have those agencies no matter where you are. But Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they're going to oversee the federal guidelines to make sure everything federally is being followed like it should. Department of Health, I just mentioned this in here because I actually think this is a great resource as well, because they really are working hand in hand with the Department of Human Services, different roles, but their role really is to promote and protect the health and well-being of the aging population. They're going to do the licensing and regulating of the nursing home. So they're the ones that are working really close with CMS that we just talked about, because we're making sure that everything's being taken care of, everything's in good shape. We're meeting our regulations that you guys can stay open. Or what do you need to improve on? Nursing home complaints can also be filed with the Department of Health, and we talked about the ombudsman earlier. We get to that point and it needs to go further potentially. That's where that's going to head. So Medicare, I always like to just spend a few minutes talking about Medicare. And I think it's important to have the conversation about what Medicare actually covers. And so I know I'm going to go off kind of a little path here, but I think this is really important information. When we're talking about Medicare in relation to long-term care, it's really important to acknowledge that Medicare can cover up to 100 days of skilled nursing home coverage a year. This is everywhere, just so we know, this is federal. Medicare can cover up to 100 days a year skilled nursing home care. But most often it does not. Actually, very rarely does it cover 100 days. Most often, it's only covering that first 20 days of coverage in a nursing home. So it comes as a big surprise to families that we're working with when on day 20, they get called in for a care plan meeting. We're like, yay, we're going in to see how everything's going with dad. And they're like, oh, by the way, Medicare's done. Here's your first $15,000 nursing home bill. How are you going to pay that? That's when we get the frantic phone calls because families think they have 100 days of coverage. So one of the best things that we can advise everybody on and to everybody spread the word is it's most likely not going to happen. I would expect not to get more than 20 days of coverage for nursing home care under Medicare. If you do, great. That's wonderful. It's a pleasant surprise. Now, Medicare really was designed, though, as a health insurance program. So that's why it was designed as health insurance, not a supplement for long-term care. We talked about the Apprise program earlier today, so that can help figure out what is the best options that you may have if you need a Medicare supplement program. And one thing I always like to mention, I am on this site all the time, is Medicare.gov. So Medicare.gov has tons of resources on it. So please know there's all sorts of information you get on there. Probably my favorite, though, is I go up to the right corner, I search, I put nursing homes in, and this nursing home rating comes up. I like this because it's an unbiased rating. So people always ask us, what's the best nursing home? What do you think of this place? What do you think of that place? Well, I can tell you what my opinion is, but that's okay because I might think it's awful. Jenna might tell you it's wonderful. Holly might tell you it's great. So I think it's good to get other people's opinions, but at the end of the day, these are the ratings you need to know. This is a very, very, very important piece of information because you can just look on here, and I just pulled some local ones up to us. We have 4 stars, which 4 stars are good. And I would say that place is a 4-star based on my experience. But then we have right below it a 1. I would also say that place is a 1-star right below it. But if we're looking for a facility for mom or dad, this is important because I'm not placing mom or dad in a 1-star facility. And you can actually click on this then. It's going to go through. It's going to tell you what's a 1-star, what's a 2-star, what they're doing good, what they're doing bad. It's going to go through all of the steps and really show you what to expect if you're going to place your loved one at that facility. Again, I think it's good to talk to people who have lived there or do live there as well. But at the end of the day, this is really the concrete evidence. Okay. So I just wanted to talk about one more thing before I switch this over to Jenna tonight. So I thought it was really important to talk about care facilities. I know this really isn't managing paperwork or anything like that, but I think it's really important to know because this is something that's very state specific, and this is something that people are often very surprised by. So there's a lot of different types of facilities. To name a few, there's group homes, there's personal care homes, there's assisted living facilities, skilled nursing facilities, and then continuing care retirement communities that really can encompass all of those or some of those. What I think is really important to know is every state is different on how you pay for these services. So, for instance, in Pennsylvania, Medicaid only pays in skilled nursing facilities, no coverage in personal care or assisted living facilities. I guess I should backtrack and technically say that Pennsylvania did transition a couple years ago to say that assisted livings could be covered under Medicaid, but they made the regulations so ridiculous that nobody can meet those standards. I think there might be like one or two in the whole state of Pennsylvania that can actually meet these standards. But in a lot of states, assisted livings, personal care homes, they can accept Medicaid. So that's something really important to know because what we find in Pennsylvania is there's a lot of families that we are talking to that their loved one doesn't need skilled nursing home care. They don't need that much help, but they can't afford to live at a personal care home or assisted living facility. So it's really like this big, ugly gap where we can't really figure out a good plan. And I hate that because we like to solve problems. We like to figure out what the options are. And this is one I think that Pennsylvania is really lacking in. So I think for all of us here, maybe your homework is to figure out in your state, what is covered by Medicaid? Is that gap of personal care and assisted livings covered under Medicaid? Because if your loved one needs that level of care, you want to know if you can get that qualification or not. I'll also throw in there, years ago when I worked at the Area Agency on Aging, it was really clear when we did level of care assessments. If someone needed assisted living, somebody needed skilled care, it's not clear anymore. And that's, there's a couple different reasons why. And really the biggest is the assisted living facilities can keep people there longer now because they've extended their services. They have memory care now. They can maybe keep somebody there that can transfer, is in a wheelchair, but as long as they can transfer. These are things years ago, assisted livings were like, nope, you have to go to skilled nursing. So the likelihood that your loved one may need assisted living, personal care is more likely, at least for a period of time, because let's be realistic too, we're living longer. We might not be living healthier, but we're living longer. So there might be a period of time we need that middle level before we get to skilled. So that's your homework assignment today, is wherever you are to figure out what is all covered by Medicaid. I'm going to say it again before I transition it over to Jenna. How you can figure that out is by working with an elder law firm in your area. So, okay, with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jenna now, and she's going to start off talking a little bit about veterans benefits.
Thanks, Kristen. So first of all, I want to apologize ahead of time. Like Kristen said, our families are home. So those cute little children I showed a picture of, my kids earlier, I'm like waiting for them to crash through the floor at any point in time. It's so loud. So I apologize. But anyways, veterans benefits. So I'm happy to say there are many benefits out there to help support veterans. There's income benefits for veterans who have a service-connected disability. There's an aid and attendance pension available to help certain veterans pay for some of their long-term care services, which sometimes we actually help clients get the income for that. Some veterans benefits will pay for all of the long-term care costs. You have to meet certain income asset thresholds, you have to have a certain level, a certain percentage of a service-connected disability, but that is a possibility. There are veteran services that offer training, others that offer housing assistance. There's veteran services, most people know this, but there's services to cover your memorial and your burial when you pass away. They can offer like a really nice service. Some veterans benefits will even cover your spouses or your minor or dependent children if the situation calls for that. And many veterans and their families, they will qualify for TRICARE health insurance. This is one of the better health insurance programs available right now. So if you do qualify, I think that's a great advantage. I'd say the biggest problem when it comes to getting veteran services or programs is trying to navigate those services. Like Kristen mentioned earlier, I think the best way to find out what VA benefits you or your family qualify for is to contact your local county Veterans Affairs representative. And if you actually type in the link shown here at the bottom of the slide, it should take you to a Veterans Affairs page to locate your local representative so that you can contact them and initiate the process. Other than actually applying for the aid and attendance pension for some of our clients, we usually just steer all of our clients that have veterans benefits questions to that representative. So that's probably the best person to actually find out, what sorts of benefits you and your family qualify for. Another federal benefits program that's very well known is the Social Security Administration. Most of the benefits offered by the Social Security Administration come in the form of income payments. The three most common types of income are SSI, SSDI, and Social Security retirement benefits. SSI, or Supplemental Security Income, is provided in monthly payments to adults and children who have a disability or blindness and who have income and resources below specific financial limits, which means your income and your assets have to be below a certain amount for you to qualify for that program. These payments can also be made to people who are 65 years old or older who don't have disabilities, but they meet those same financial guidelines. So those are the ways to get supplemental security income. SSDI, or Social Security Disability Insurance, is for people who are insured, which means they've worked for a certain period of time, and so they have a certain amount of work credit so that they qualify for the Social Security Disability Insurance payments. While SSI and SSDI are different programs, the requirements for medically showing a disability are the same. Basically, the person must have a medical condition that's expected to last at least 1 year or result in death. So once you medically show that you have a disability, then they're looking at your assets and your income differently depending on which program you're trying to qualify for. On the other hand, Social Security retirement does not require that you have a disability. Most of us pay into Social Security while we're working so that we're entitled to an income once we retire. It may be helpful to meet with a financial advisor prior to taking your Social Security retirement income because it might make sense for you to wait a little longer to take that Social Security retirement income so that you can actually get a greater income, if you wait a little bit longer. Otherwise, you can visit ssa.gov if you need to apply for any of the other Social Security programs that we discussed so far. When it comes, a lot of these financial advisors now they have programs where they can type in, what Social Security retirement you would be entitled to at different ages. So it might just be a great benefit to talk to an advisor. And also ssa.gov is there if you need additional resources. I think that website is relatively user-friendly to try to get the general information that you might be looking for. If you're having difficulty with affording housing, then I would suggest contacting your local housing authority. Each person who does contact the local housing authority is given a case manager who will basically work with you to determine your eligibility, and they'll also help search for the available housing in your area. Keep in mind, there are very strict financial requirements to qualify for housing assistance. But if emergency housing is necessary, I would look into the Office of Adult Services or the local Department of Human Services for emergency assistance. Otherwise, your local housing authority would be the best place to find those sorts of services. And then lastly, Kristen's kind of talked about this a little bit. There are elder law attorneys like myself. Now, keep in mind, these are not your average attorneys. For instance, I'm not the person to call if you find yourself in criminal trouble or if you're getting divorced. I help clients who are in their second half of life, like I mentioned before, retirement, planning for long-term care, if somebody's passed away. So basically what we do is we help to get really good estate planning documents in place. We can discuss asset protection planning if the clients are concerned about protecting assets against the costs of long-term care. We also assist families who have a loved one with a disability or a special need to plan ahead for the future. We can walk our clients through the Medicaid process if they ever need to qualify for assistance to pay for care. And then lastly, we are a dementia-focused law firm, which basically means that most of our firm is certified as dementia practitioners. We take special steps to make sure our clients with dementia feel more welcome at our office. And we have a care coordinator who's actually Holly, who assists with families while they're going through the emotional ups and downs of dementia, and just making sure that if care is needed, that care is available. So that it kind of basically allows the children or the rest of the family to be family, while also having additional support to kind of figure out the services that are necessary, but also figure out how to pay for those services. Okay, so that was an overview of most of the available service programs. This was not an exhaustive list, but we wanted to cover the main programs available. It sounds like somebody is just like stomping through my floor right now, but we wanted to cover the main programs available to at least get you steered in the right direction. Kristen, unless you have anything else to add, I didn't see any questions in the chat, but basically, I just wanted to say thank you to the adult children of aging parents for having us on tonight. It's been so great having the chance to speak with you all. We really hope that you found some value in this discussion tonight. We're available if anyone does have questions afterwards. But thanks so much, and I hope everybody has a great evening. Oh, here's Jill.
Yes, thank you, Jenna. We really appreciate your taking the time out of your busy day and putting out some very valuable information. I want to apologize to our audience. We did have a few gaps in the audio, and we have a connectivity issue, I think, but I'm sorry that happened. Hopefully, you can always contact acapcommunity.org if you have questions. You also can always go to acapcommunity.org/events to see what the upcoming events are. Our next event, which will be in May, is called Morning Stretch, and it's about movement for older bodies. And I know I could take advantage of that, I think. I also wanted to acknowledge ACAP Guilford County. I was remiss in not listing their core sponsors earlier when I listed center counties. And theirs would be Griswold Home Care, Providence Place, and their chapter sponsor is Mount Union Greensboro. So please come back and attend some of our other sessions. As I said, if you want to know what's up and coming, our next presentation will be next month, the second Tuesday of the month at 5:30. However, our sister chapters have different times, different dates and different times that they give presentations. For example, this coming Thursday, there's a presentation called Healthcare Decisions, Healthcare Planning. That's April the 14th at 5:30, and it's through Hickory, the Hickory chapter. And again, what you do to log on is to go to acapcommunity.org/events and click on, and it will pull you right into the YouTube live program. So, ladies, thank you again. I appreciate it. And with that, I think we'll call it a night.
Thanks,
Thank
Jill.
you. Take care.
Bye-bye.